The great doors of the Galactic Council chamber slowly opened with a deep sound that echoed through the massive hall. Captain Sarah Chun walked forward, her boots clicking on the smooth metal floor. Behind her walked 20 other humans, the last representatives of Earth and all human colonies in the galaxy. Sarah kept her back straight and her head high. She would not let these aliens see her fear. Around her, the chamber rose up like a mountain made of steel and glass. Thousands of seats filled the curved walls, and in those seats sat beings from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human, but with strange skin colors. Others had too many arms or eyes that glowed in the dark. A few were so different that Sarah could not even tell which end was their head. At the center of the chamber sat the High Council, 12 beings from the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Sarah had met some of them before, back when humans were welcome here. Back when they thought humans could be trusted. The Zephyrian High Judge rose from her crystal chair. Her body looked like it was made of living glass, and light danced inside her form as she moved. When she spoke, her voice came from speakers built into the walls because her people did not use mouths to talk. "The Terran delegation will approach the Judgment Circle," the Zephyrian said. Her words were cold and formal, nothing like the friendly talks they used to have. Sarah and her people walked to the small circle of light in the center of the vast floor. All around them, alien eyes watched their every step. Sarah had been to this chamber many times over the past 10 years. She had made speeches here about trade deals and peace treaties. She had shaken hands or claws or tentacles with beings from 100 different worlds. But today felt different. Today felt like an ending. The Corvan War Marshal stood up next. He was tall and covered in thick armor that looked like it had grown from his skin. Scars covered his face and his eyes burned red like hot coals. The Corvans were warriors first and everything else second. They had been humanity's allies once, fighting side by side against space pirates and worse things that lived in the dark. "Between stars. Humans of Terra," the War Marshal said in his deep voice. "You stand accused of crimes against the peace of the galaxy." "How do you answer?" Sarah stepped forward. "We ask to hear the charges, as is our right under galactic law." A new voice filled the chamber. This one belonged to the ethereal sage, a being so old that no one remembered what his people originally looked like. He floated in a ball of soft light, his form barely solid enough to see. "The charges are clear," the sage said. "Excessive expansion beyond approved limits. Militarization of civilian colonies. Aggressive mining operations in disputed space. Violation of the non-interference directive on primitive worlds. And most serious of all, development of banned weapons technology." Sarah felt her heart sink, but she kept her face calm. She had known this day might come. Humans had always been different from the other species in the galaxy. They expanded faster, fought harder, and asked fewer permissions. While other species were happy to stay on their homeworlds for thousands of years, humans had spread to 50 systems in just 2 centuries since first contact. "These are lies," said Admiral Marcus Torres. Stepping up beside Sarah, he was an old soldier with gray hair and hands marked by decades of fighting. "Everything we have done has been within the bounds of galactic law." The aquatic speaker rose from her water-filled tank. Her people lived in the deep oceans of their world and rarely left their liquid homes. When she spoke, bubbles rose through the water around her. "The law says one thing," the speaker gurgled, "but your actions say another. You humans take what you want and ask permission later. You fight wars that others would solve with words. You change planets to suit your needs instead of adapting to them. You are dangerous." "Dangerous to who?" Sarah asked, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "We have never attacked a member world. We have honored every treaty we have signed. We have helped defend this galaxy against threats that would have destroyed all of us." The crystalline counselor spoke next, his voice like the sound of breaking glass. "That is exactly the problem. You solve everything with violence. When the Void Hunters came from outside the galaxy, other species wanted to negotiate. You humans wanted to build bigger guns and fight them head-on. When the plague struck the Centauri colonies, other species would have studied it carefully for years. You found a cure in months by doing dangerous experiments that could have killed billions. But it worked, Admiral Torres said. The void hunters are gone, the plague is cured. People are alive because humans were willing to take risks that others would not. The High Judge raised one crystalline hand for silence. That is why you must go, she said. You are too different, too willing to change things, too ready to fight. The galaxy has been at peace for 10,000 years. Your kind threatens that peace simply by existing. Sarah looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring down at her. Some looked sad, others angry, and a few seemed afraid. She realized then that this had been decided long before today. This trial was just for show. What exactly are you asking us to do? She said. The war marshal stood again. All human colonies and ships must leave civilized space within one solar cycle. You may take your possessions and your people, but you may not return. Any human vessel found in galactic space after that time will be destroyed without warning. You are exiling our entire species? Sarah could not believe what she was hearing. There are billions of humans living on colonies throughout the galaxy. Children who were born here and have never seen Earth. Families who have lived here for generations. They may stay, the ethereal sage said, but only if they give up their human citizenship and join another species as adopted members. They must follow that species' laws and customs. They may never contact Earth or other human colonies again. The chamber fell silent. Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her like a mountain. Everything humans had built in space over 2 centuries was being taken away. All because they were too human for the galaxy's taste. Admiral Torres stepped forward, his old face hard as stone. And if we refuse? The war marshal smiled, showing teeth like knives. Then the combined fleets of the Galactic Council will enforce this decision. Your choice is exile or extinction. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, she looked directly at the High Judge. How long do we have to prepare? 1 solar cycle, the judge repeated. Your ships will be escorted to the galactic rim by Council forces to ensure compliance. Very well, Sarah said. She turned to face the thousands of aliens watching from their seats. Her voice carried clearly to every corner of the vast chamber. Let the record show that humanity accepts this exile. We will leave your galaxy as you demand. But remember this day, all of you. Remember that you had the chance to keep us as friends and allies. You chose to make us something else instead. She turned back to the High Council. We will be ready to leave within the time limit. But mark my words, you will regret this decision. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. When that day comes, remember that you chose this path. The High Judge nodded. The ruling is final. This session is closed. As the great doors opened again, Sarah and her delegation walked out of the chamber. Behind them, the alien voices rose in discussion, but Sarah did not look back. She had work to do. Humanity had 1 solar cycle to pack up everything they had, built among the stars, and find a new home in the dark spaces beyond the galaxy's edge. The exile had begun. 50 years had passed since the Great Exile. In the civilized galaxy, the alien species had almost forgotten about humans. The Galactic Council rarely spoke of them anymore. When they did, it was to congratulate themselves on solving the human problem without bloodshed. Trade flowed smoothly between worlds. Wars were rare and small. Everything was peaceful and orderly, just as it had been for 10,000 years before humans arrived. But in the dark spaces beyond the galactic rim, something extraordinary was happening. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in her laboratory on New Terra, the largest human colony in the frontier zone. Through the thick glass windows, she could see the purple sky of this strange world. 2 suns hung overhead, one red and one blue, casting weird shadows across the landscape. The air outside was poison to normal humans, filled with gases that would burn their lungs. The gravity was twice what Earth-born humans were used to. The radiation from the twin suns would kill most aliens in hours, but Elena had been born here 30 years ago, As she breathed the air like it was pure oxygen, she looked down at the sample under her microscope. The cells looked human, but they were different, stronger, more adaptable. They could survive things that would destroy normal human tissue. This was the 47th generation of adaptive enhancement, and each one was better than the last. "Dr. Vasquez," came a voice from behind her. Elena turned to see her assistant, Dr. Park, walking into the lab. He was second-generation frontier-born, like most of the research team. His skin had a slight blue tint from the radiation adaptation, and his eyes were larger than baseline humans, evolved to see better in the strange light of their twin suns. "The test results are back from the volunteers," Dr. Park said, handing her a data pad. "The new enhancement series is showing remarkable success. Subjects can now survive in methane atmospheres for up to 6 hours without breathing equipment. Cold tolerance has increased by 40%. And the most interesting result is the improved healing rate." Elena smiled as she read the numbers. When humans first arrived in the frontier, they had to live in sealed domes and wear environment suits to survive on most worlds. But necessity had driven innovation. Within 10 years, they had developed the first crude genetic modifications that let humans adapt to alien environments. Now, 50 years later, they were creating humans who could live almost anywhere. What about the deep space modifications? Elena asked. "Even better news," Dr. Park said, his eyes lighting up. "The volunteers who received the void adaptation series can now survive in hard vacuum for up to 20 minutes. Their skin has become naturally radiation resistant, and their blood carries oxygen much more efficiently. Captain Wright wants to start training the new spaceborne soldiers as soon as possible." Elena nodded. Captain James Wright had taken over as head of military operations 5 years ago when Admiral Torres finally retired. Wright was young for a fleet commander, only 45, but he had been born in space aboard one of the evacuation ships. He understood the frontier in ways that Earth-born humans never could. "Speaking of Captain Wright," Dr. Park continued, "he wants to see you in the command center. Something about the new stealth technology." Elena made her way through the corridors of the research station. The walls were made from metal taken from asteroids in the system, and the air recyclers hummed constantly to keep the atmosphere breathable. But despite the harsh conditions, the station bustled with activity. Humans had not just survived in exile. They had thrived. The command center was built into the heart of New Terra's largest mountain. When Elena entered, she found Captain Wright standing before a massive display screen that showed the local star systems. He was tall and lean, with the pale skin of someone who spent most of his time in space. His eyes had the silver tint that came from the latest vision enhancements. "Elena," he said without turning around, "perfect timing. I want to show you something." The display changed to show a detailed star map of the galaxy they had been expelled from. Dozens of red dots marked alien colonies and patrol routes. But scattered throughout the map were tiny blue dots that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. "What am I looking at?" Elena asked. "Our scout ships," Wright said with a smile. "We have been watching the galaxy for the past 10 years. The aliens think we disappeared into the dark between galaxies, but we have been studying them, learning their patterns, mapping their weaknesses." Elena stared at the screen. "How is this possible?" "The Council fleet patrols would detect any human ships." Wright touched a control, and the image zoomed in on one of the blue dots. Elena gasped when she saw what appeared to be empty space. "New stealth technology," Wright explained. "We call it shadow phase technology. Our ships can shift partially out of normal spacetime. To most sensors, they simply do not exist. We learned it from studying the dark matter currents between galaxies. Turns out there are layers of reality that the Council species never discovered, because they were too comfortable in their safe, mapped space." Another screen lit up, showing intercepted communications from various alien worlds. Elena saw reports of missing patrol ships, unexplained equipment failures, and strange energy readings in supposedly empty space. "Are we at war?" Elena asked. Quietly. "Not yet," Wright said, "but we are preparing. Look at this." The display showed a graph tracking various galactic statistics over the past 50 years. Resource production was declining. Birth rates on most alien worlds were dropping. The number of new colonies had almost stopped completely. "They are dying," Wright said. "Not quickly, but steadily. Without humans pushing them to expand and grow, they have fallen back into stagnation. Some species have not left their home systems. In decades, they are becoming weak." Elena studied the data. It painted a clear picture of a galaxy in slow decline. The very peace and stability that the Council had fought to preserve was killing them. "What about us?" she asked. Wright smiled and called up another display. This one showed the frontier territories where humans had been sent to die. Instead of a few struggling colonies, Elena saw a thriving network of hundreds of worlds. Asteroid. Mining operations that stripped entire systems of resources. Research stations studying phenomena that aliens had declared too dangerous to investigate. And everywhere, humans adapted to conditions that no other known species could survive. "We have not just survived," Wright said. "We have become something new, something better. Dr. Martinez on Kepler Station can breathe chlorine gas. The miners on Titan Base see in complete darkness and feel at home in crushing gravity. The deep space scouts can survive for hours in hard vacuum and navigate by sensing dark matter currents." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "We are not human anymore, are we?" "We are more than human," Wright corrected. "We took what they saw as weaknesses and made them into strengths. They cast us out because we were too aggressive, too adaptable, too willing to change. So we changed. We adapted. We became everything they feared and more." Dr. Park appeared at Elena's shoulder. "Doctor, we just received a message from the Prometheus expedition. They have made contact with something beyond the galactic rim." Elena and Wright turned to him. "What kind of contact?" Wright asked. "Another galaxy," Dr. Park said, his voice filled with excitement. "A whole other galaxy filled with species that the Council has never met, and they want to trade with us. They are impressed by how quickly humans have spread through the frontier." Wright nodded slowly. "How many ships do they want to send?" "A full diplomatic fleet. 50 vessels carrying trade goods and technology we have never seen before." Elena felt her heart racing. While the Council thought humans were struggling to survive in exile, they had been building relationships with entirely new civilizations. They had been growing stronger while their former enemies grew weaker. "There is more," Dr. Park continued. "The Prometheus team reports that this other galaxy has heard of the Council. They consider them to be a minor regional power that has never ventured beyond their own small corner of space. The humans are the first from our galaxy to make contact with the greater galactic community." Wright walked to the window that looked out over New Terra's strange landscape. In the distance, human children played in the poisonous air while their parents worked on projects that would have been impossible 50 years ago. "Send a message to all frontier colonies," he said finally. "Tell them to prepare for the next phase. The exile is over. It is time to come home." Elena watched him, understanding finally dawning. "You are planning to go back." "Not to beg for readmission," Wright said. "To show them what they created when they cast us out. To show them what humanity has become when freed from their rules and limitations." He turned back to the star map where the blue dots of human scout ships continued their silent watch over the galaxy that had rejected them. "They wanted us gone because they thought we were dangerous," Wright said. "They were right. But they made us far more dangerous than we ever would have been if they had just let us stay." The alarm in the Corvin Military Command Center screamed across the station like a wounded animal. War Marshal Kethek rushed from his quarters, his heavy armor clanking with each step. In 50 years of service, he had never heard the emergency klaxon sound with such urgency. "Report," he barked as he entered the control room. Young officers scrambled at their stations, their faces pale with fear. "Sir," Lieutenant Vex said, his voice shaking, "Patrol Group 7 has gone silent." "Oh." 12 ships lost contact simultaneously 20 minutes ago. Kethek frowned. Patrol Group 7 had been investigating strange energy readings near the edge of Corvin space. It was supposed to be a routine mission? Equipment failure? No, sir, another officer called out from across the room. We are receiving their emergency beacons, but when we try to contact them, there is no response. The ships appear to be drifting. Show me, Kethek ordered. The main display lit up with a tactical view of the patrol area. 12 red dots marked the last known positions of the Corvin warships. They were spread out in a search pattern near an asteroid field that had been mined out decades ago. Send a recovery team, Kethek said. Heavy escort. Whatever did this might still be in the area. 6 hours later, the recovery team arrived at the patrol zone. What they found made no sense. The 12 Corvin ships floated in perfect formation, but they were completely empty. No crew, no bodies, no signs of struggle. The ships themselves were undamaged. Life support was still running, weapons were still armed. The crews had simply vanished, but that was not the strangest part. Sir, came the voice of Captain Drac over the communications system. You need to see the security footage from the lead ship. The footage played on the command center screens. It showed the bridge of the patrol ship during normal operations. The crew was at their stations, scanning the asteroid field for the source of the energy readings. Then, without warning, the lights dimmed. The crew looked around in confusion as their instruments began showing impossible readings, and then they saw them. Figures in dark suits materialized on the bridge like ghosts. They moved wrong, too fast and too smooth, as if gravity did not affect them the same way. Their faces were hidden behind reflective masks, but their body shapes looked almost human. Almost, but not quite. The Corvin crew reached for their weapons, but the figures moved faster than the eye could follow. One moment the crew was standing, the next they were gone. Vanished. The ghostly figures gathered the personal equipment left behind, then disappeared as suddenly as they had come. The footage ended. Kethek stared at the blank screen. In all his years as a warrior, he had never seen anything like it. What were those things? Unknown, sir, Captain Drac reported. But there is something else. We found this message carved into the metal of the bridge. The screen showed strange markings burned into the steel bulkhead. The letters were in an ancient human script that few aliens could read anymore. But Kethek recognized it from his studies of galactic history. The message was simple. The cast out. Remember, word of the disappearance spread quickly through the Galactic Council. Within days, similar reports came from across civilized space. A Zephyrian research station went dark with no distress signal. An aquatic mining operation reported missing equipment and vanished workers. Everywhere the pattern was the same. No violence, no destruction. Just empty facilities and the same message carved in human script. The council emergency session was chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding answers that no one had. This is impossible, declared the ethereal sage, his light form flickering with agitation. Humans were exiled 50 years ago. They could not have survived in the frontier territories. Yet the evidence suggests otherwise, said the Zephyrian High Judge, her crystal form pulsed with nervous energy. Someone or something is systematically targeting our outer colonies? Fleet Commander Zara al-Rashid floated in the cold darkness between stars, watching the chaos unfold through intercepted council communications. She had been born during the Exodus, raised on a generation ship as humanity fled into exile. Now, at 45, she commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled, but no one in the galaxy knew it existed. Status report, she said into her communications headset. Around her, the bridge of the stealth ship Shadow's Edge hummed with quiet activity. Her crew moved with the fluid grace of people adapted to zero-gravity environments. Their skin had the pale, slightly luminous quality of the Voidborn. Phase 7 is complete, reported Commander Liu from his station. All target facilities have been cleared. Materials and personnel have been transferred to our ships. Casualties? Zara asked. None on our side. The aliens are unharmed and currently in stasis aboard the transport ships. They will be returned to Council space once we have what we need from them. Zara nodded. The mission was not about killing or conquest. It was about gathering intelligence and resources while demonstrating that humanity could strike anywhere in the galaxy without being detected. What about the message? Delivered as ordered, Liu confirmed. Every site has been marked with the human script. The Council should be receiving reports within hours. Through the view screen, Zara could see the distant lights of a Corvan military base. To their sensors, her fleet of 30 ships was invisible. The shadow phase technology that Captain Wright had developed allowed them to exist partially outside normal space, visible only when they chose to be. Begin Phase 8, she ordered. Target the supply depot at Kepler 442, full stealth approach. As her ships moved through dimensions that Council science had never discovered, Zara thought about the children being born in human colonies. They were growing up in environments that would kill normal humans, breathing alien air and seeing with modified eyes. They were the future of humanity, and they were nothing like what the Council. Remember, the Kepler Supply Depot was a massive station that provided resources to dozens of alien colonies. It was supposed to be the most secure facility in the sector, protected by advanced defense systems and a permanent garrison of Corvan warriors. It might as well have been undefended. Zara's ships materialized inside the station's docking bays like silver ghosts. Her soldiers moved through the corridors with impossible speed and silence. They wore suits that let them phase through solid walls and weapons that fired coherent dark matter. The aliens never knew what hit them. Within 2 hours, the depot was empty. Thousands of tons of rare metals, advanced technology, and processed materials vanished into human cargo holds. The station personnel found themselves aboard transport ships, unharmed but unconscious. With no memory of how they got there, the message burned into the depot's central computer. Core was longer this time. You cast us out to die. We chose to live. We chose to grow. We chose to become what you feared we could be. The pattern continued for months. Human raiders struck without warning across the galaxy, taking what they needed and leaving no trace except for their messages. The Council's most advanced sensor networks could not detect them. Their fastest ships could not catch them. Their strongest defenses could not stop them. Fear began to spread through the civilized worlds. Rumors spoke of humans who could walk through walls, survive in hard vacuum, and disappear like smoke. Some said they had made deals with dark forces beyond the galaxy. Others claimed they had become something inhuman. Both rumors were partly true. In the Council chambers, emergency session followed emergency session. The aliens who had once congratulated themselves for solving the human problem now faced the enemy. They could not understand or fight. We must negotiate, the aquatic speaker gurgled from her tank. Whatever they want, we should consider giving it to them. Never, snarled War Marshal Kethek. We do not bargain with terrorists. These are not terrorists, the High Judge said quietly. These are the humans we exiled, and they have become something far beyond what they were when we cast them out. The ethereal sage's light dimmed as he spoke. Perhaps we made an error 50 years ago? Error? Kethek roared. They were dangerous then. They are a plague now. No, came a new voice from the chamber entrance. Every head turned to see Admiral Marcus Torres walking into the room. He was older now, his hair white and his face lined with age, but his eyes still burned with the same intensity they had 50 years ago. Behind him walked Captain Wright and Dr. Vasquez, along with a dozen other humans who looked like they had stepped out of nightmares. Their skin had strange tints, their eyes reflected light like mirrors, and they moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost supernatural. We are not a plague, Torres said as he approached the judgment circle where he had once stood trial. We are what you made us. You wanted us gone, so we left. You thought exile would destroy us, so we chose to transform instead. The chamber fell silent. Security forces reached for their weapons but found that their hands would not move. The humans had brought technology that could control alien nervous systems. How did you get here? The High Judge whispered. Torres smiled, and his teeth seemed sharper than they should be. We never left. We have been watching you for 50 years, learning your weaknesses, growing stronger while you grew complacent. He gestured to his companions. Dr. Vasquez can survive in any environment you can imagine. Captain Wright commands fleets that exist. The silence in the council chamber stretched like a held breath. Admiral Torres stood in the center of the room where he had been judged 50 years ago, but everything had changed. The humans around him looked wrong in ways that made the alien representatives uncomfortable. Their eyes reflected light like predators in the dark. Their movements were too smooth, too controlled. They breathed the recycled air of the station as if it were their natural atmosphere. War Marshal Kethak was the first to break the silence. His hand moved toward his weapon, but his arm stopped halfway as if something invisible was holding it back. "What have you done to us?" he growled. Dr. Vasquez smiled, and her teeth seemed whiter than human teeth should be. "Neural dampening field," she said in a voice that carried easily through the vast chamber. "We learned to control alien nervous systems after studying your people for decades. We know how your minds work better than you do." The Zephyrian High Judge's crystalline form pulsed with panicked light. "This is impossible. Our security systems would have detected any weapons or devices." "Your security systems detect technology you understand," Captain Wright said. He raised his hand, and the air around it seemed to bend and twist. "We have moved beyond your understanding of science. While you spent 50 years maintaining the same old systems, we learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality." Torres walked slowly around the judgment circle, his eyes moving from one alien representative to another. "You want to know what we have become? Let me show you." He gestured to the massive view screen that dominated one wall of the chamber. The display flickered and changed to show a star map of the galaxy. But this was not the map the Council knew. This version showed thousands of new markings in areas they had thought were empty space. "These are our colonies," Torres said. "Not just in the frontier territories where you banished us, but everywhere. We have settlements in dark matter clouds that your sensors cannot detect. We have cities built inside rogue planets that drift between star systems. We have research stations in dimensions that exist parallel to normal space." The map zoomed in to show specific systems. The aliens gasped as they saw massive human installations in places they had surveyed and found empty just years before. "The Vega system," Torres continued, pointing to one cluster of markings. "You declared it uninhabitable because of radiation levels that would kill any known life form. We have a colony there of 50 million people who see radiation as nutrition." He pointed to another area. "The Void Nebula, which you avoid because it disrupts all known technology. We built our primary shipyards there because the dark matter concentrations let us create vessels that exist partially outside normal spacetime." The aquatic speaker's tank bubbled frantically as she tried to speak. "How many of you are there?" "More than when you exiled us," Dr. Vasquez answered. "Much more. Our population has grown to over 200 billion, spread across 1,000 worlds and installations. And all of them are adapted to environments that would kill baseline humans in seconds." Torres touched a control and the display changed. Again, this time it showed human ships throughout the galaxy. Not the primitive vessels the Council remembered, but sleek craft that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved through space in ways that violated everything the aliens understood about physics. "We have been watching you," Torres said. "Every council meeting, every military operation, every secret diplomatic discussion. Our ships have been in your systems for decades, invisible to your sensors, recording everything." War Marshal Kethek tried again to reach for his weapon. His hand shook with the effort, but the neural dampening field held him motionless. "What do you want?" he snarled. "Want?" Torres laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the chamber. "You misunderstand. We are not here to make demands. We are here to deliver a message." Captain Wright stepped forward. His skin had a strange, pale quality, and his eyes seemed to see more than they should. "The message is simple. Your time as the rulers of this galaxy is ending." "That is impossible," the ethereal sage said, his light form flickering with distress. "The Council has maintained peace and order for 10,000 years. Peace built on stagnation, Dr. Vasquez replied. Order maintained by refusing to grow or change. You banished us because we threatened that false stability, but nature abhors stagnation. While you have remained the same for 50 years, we have evolved beyond your ability to comprehend. The display screen changed once more, showing statistics that made the alien representatives gasp in horror. Birth rates across Council worlds had dropped to critical levels. Resource production was failing as colonies became too comfortable to expand. Military technology had barely advanced in decades. Entire species were choosing to remain on their homeworlds rather than explore new frontiers. You are dying, Torres said bluntly. Not quickly, but certainly. Your civilization has lost the will to grow, to struggle, to become more than what it was. You have chosen comfortable decline over difficult progress. And you offer what? The High Judge asked, her crystal voice barely a whisper. Conquest? Domination? We offer evolution, Captain Wright said. Join us willingly, and we will teach you to become more than you ever imagined. Your people can learn to survive in environments they never dreamed possible. Your minds can expand beyond the limitations of your current forms. Your civilization can grow beyond this single galaxy into the infinite cosmos. And if we refuse? Kethek asked. Torres shrugged. Then you continue your slow decline into extinction while we inherit the galaxy around you. We are not going to wage war against you. We do not need to. We are already stronger, faster, and more numerous than you are. We control resources you do not even know exist. We have technologies that make your greatest achievements look like stone tools. He gestured around the chamber. This station, for example. You consider it the most secure facility in the galaxy. We have been inside it for years. Our people have been living in the walls, breathing the air, studying your every move. The only reason you are alive right now is because we choose to let you live. Dr. Vasquez moved to one of the control panels. Her fingers danced over the controls with impossible speed, and every screen in the chamber began displaying human faces. Men, women, and children who looked almost human but carried the marks of adaptation to alien worlds. These are our people, she said. Born in the void between stars, raised in the depths of gas giants, educated in the hearts of dying suns. They are the future of intelligent life in this galaxy. They can do things you would call miracles. One of the images showed a young woman walking through hard vacuum without a suit, her skin glowing with stored solar energy. Another showed a man breathing methane gas on a world where the very atmosphere was poison. A third showed children playing in the crushing gravity of a neutron star's surface. We are not the same species you banished 50 years ago, Torres said. We are what humanity becomes when it is freed from artificial limitations. We are what any species could become if they were willing to embrace change instead of fearing it. The crystalline counselor spoke for the first time, his voice like breaking glass. You speak of choice, but you have invaded our worlds, stolen our resources, taken our people. Borrowed, Captain Wright corrected. Every person we took has been returned unharmed. Every resource we gathered was replaced with something better. We needed to study you, to understand how far you had fallen, to determine if redemption was possible. And your conclusion? The High Judge asked. Torres looked directly at her, his modified eyes seeming to see through her crystalline form to something deeper. Some of you can be saved. Some of you still remember what it means to grow, to explore, to become more than you were. Others ... Others will fade away as they choose, comfortable in their decline until extinction claims them. The chamber fell silent again. Outside the viewports, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, but everyone in the room understood that those patterns were about to change forever. We will give you time to decide, Torres said finally. 1 solar cycle, just as you gave us 50 years ago. Decide whether you want to join the future or cling to a dying past. He turned toward the exit, his companions moving with him like shadows. But understand this, he said without looking back. With or without you, humanity will inherit this galaxy. The only question is whether you will be part of that inheritance or just another extinct species in the fossil record. As the humans walked toward the great doors, their forms began to shimmer and fade. By the time they reached the exit, they had vanished completely, leaving behind only the echo of Torres's final words, "The cast out have returned. And we own the galaxy now." 1 year had passed since Admiral Torres delivered his ultimatum to the Galactic Council. The galaxy that had once been united under alien rule was now divided into 3 groups: those who had joined humanity, those who still resisted, and those who had simply faded away into irrelevance. Sarah Chun stood on the observation deck of humanity's new mobile capital, a city ship called New Horizon that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions the old council had never imagined. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the lights of 100 different worlds scattered across space like jewels on black velvet dot. At 93 years old, Sarah had lived through humanity's exile, transformation, and return. Her body showed the marks of decades spent in the frontier territories. Her skin had a slight luminous quality from radiation adaptation, and her eyes had been modified to see across multiple spectrums of light. She was no longer entirely human by old standards, but she was something far more than human by any measure. "The Nexari delegation has arrived," came a voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Commander Maya Santos approaching. Maya was second generation, void-born, raised on ships that traveled between galaxies. Her skin was pale as starlight, and she moved with the fluid grace of someone who had never lived in a gravity well. "How many ships?" Sarah asked. 50 vessels carrying their entire leadership council. "They are eager to begin the integration process," Sarah nodded. The Nexari had been the first alien species to accept humanity's offer. They were young as galactic. Civilizations went only a few thousand years old, and they still remembered what it meant to dream of becoming something greater. Within months of Torres's ultimatum, they had contacted human representatives and asked to join the new order. "What about their adaptation requests?" "They want the full package," Maya said with a smile. "Environmental adaptation for their colonies in the Magellanic Clouds, enhanced longevity treatments, and neural modifications for improved learning. Capacity. Dr. Vasquez says the procedures will take about 6 months." Sarah walked to another window that showed a different view. In the distance, massive construction ships were building something that had never existed before. A space elevator that reached from normal space into the dark matter dimension where humanity's largest cities now resided. Alien workers labored alongside humans who could survive in hard vacuum, creating a structure that bridged realities. "Any word from the Corvan Empire?" Sarah asked. Maya's expression darkened. "War Marshal Kathek is still calling for resistance. He has convinced about half the Corvan worlds to join him in what he calls the final defense. They are building new weapons and fortifying their core systems. And the other half? The other half have declared independence from the Empire and requested human protection. Turns out a lot of young Corvans were tired of the old ways. They want to learn how to adapt to new environments instead of just conquering planets that already suit them." Sarah sighed. The Corvans had always been warriors, but they had also been honorable allies once. It saddened her to see them split apart, but she understood their fear. Change was never easy, especially for a species that had built their entire identity around remaining unchanged. "Show me the galactic situation map," Sarah requested. The air in front of them shimmered, and a 3-dimensional display appeared showing the current state of the galaxy. Blue areas marked worlds that had joined the human coalition. Green areas showed species that were negotiating to join. Red areas marked those still in active resistance. Gray areas showed worlds that had simply been abandoned as their populations chose to retreat to their homeworlds. The blue areas dominated the map. "Status. Report on the major species?" Sarah asked. Maya touched controls in the air, and information flowed across the display. "The Aquatic Federation joined us 6 months ago. They were fascinated by our underwater colonies and wanted to learn how to modify their people for deep space exploration. The Crystalline Confederacy is still debating, but their younger generation is pushing for acceptance. The Zephyrians? Split like the Corvins. About 60% have joined us, mainly the ones involved in scientific research. They love our dimensional technology. The rest have retreated to their core worlds and refuse all contact. Sarah studied the map. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected. Species that had remained the same for thousands of years were now choosing to evolve in decades. Children were being born with abilities their grandparents could never have imagined. What about the ethereal collective? Maya paused. That is the strange one. They have not officially joined us, but they have not resisted either. Our scouts report that they are conducting their own experiments with dimensional technology. It seems they are trying to evolve on their own, using human research as a starting point. Interesting, Sarah said. The ethereals had always been mysterious, even by alien standards. If they were adapting human technology to their own purposes, the results could be fascinating. A soft chime sounded, indicating an incoming priority message. Maya accepted the communication, and Admiral Torres appeared as a hologram in front of them. He looked older but stronger than ever, his modifications more pronounced after years of living in environments that would kill normal humans. Sarah, he said with a smile, I wanted you to see this. The display changed to show a star system Sarah did not recognize. But as she watched, massive ships began emerging from what looked like empty space. These were not human ships or any alien vessels she knew. They were something entirely new. First contact, Torres explained. A species from the Andromeda Galaxy has arrived to meet with us. They heard about our expansion and wanted to establish diplomatic relations. Sarah felt her heart race. Humanity had spent 50 years growing beyond the boundaries of their home galaxy, but this was the first time another galactic civilization had come to them. What do they want? She asked. Trade, knowledge exchange, and possibly alliance, Torres. Sod. Apparently, our rapid expansion has impressed several intergalactic civilizations. They consider the old Galactic Council to be a minor regional power that never ventured beyond their own small corner of space. Sarah laughed despite herself. The aliens who had cast humanity out for being too aggressive were now seen as timid, isolationist by the greater galactic community. There is more, Torres continued. They report that there are dozens of other galaxies with thriving civilizations, all connected by trade and communication networks that span intergalactic space. The Council's galaxy was essentially cut off from the greater community because none of its species ever developed the technology to travel between galaxies. But we have, Torres confirmed. Our dimensional technology allows us to move through dark matter streams that connect galaxies. What would take conventional ships millions of years, we can do in months. Sarah turned back to the window, looking out at the lights of human colonies that now stretched across multiple galaxies. Children played in those lights, children who would grow up in a universe where the boundaries between galaxies meant nothing. They would explore cosmos that their great-grandparents could never have imagined. Status of Earth? Sarah asked quietly. Maya consulted her displays. Fully restored and terraformed beyond original conditions. The population is now 3 billion, mostly composed of humans who chose to return to our homeworld but with full adaptation packages. They can survive in any environment from the ocean depths to the upper atmosphere. Any visitors from the old Council? Daily, Maya said with a smile. Mostly young aliens who want to see where humanity came from. Earth has become something of a pilgrimage site for species who are choosing to evolve. They want to understand how a single world produced a civilization that could adapt to any environment in the universe. Sarah walked to a third window that showed her favorite view. In the distance, barely visible even to her enhanced eyes, was a small blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, but she knew it teemed with life forms that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. A young voice called out behind her. Great-grandmother Sarah? Sarah turned to see her great-granddaughter Emma approaching. The girl was 12 years old and represented everything humanity had become. Her skin could photosynthesize sunlight for energy her eyes could see across the entire electromagnetic spectrum, and her lungs could process any atmosphere from pure oxygen to methane. She had been born in the dark matter dimension and was equally at home in hard vacuum or crushing gravity. Yes, dear? The teacher wants to know if you will tell us about the old days again, about when humans could only live on one kind of world and needed machines to breathe in space. Sarah smiled and knelt down to the girl's level. Of course. But first, tell me what you learned in dimensional engineering class today. Emma's face lit up. We learned how to build bridges between galaxies using dark matter resonance. And tomorrow we are going to visit the new colony they are building. Inside a black hole, Sarah stood and took the girl's hand. Around them, the city ship continued its journey through dimensions that the old Galactic Council had never discovered. Ahead lay galaxies full of civilizations that welcomed humanity as equals and partners in exploration.